hooks is probably the most known feature of React, even if it's not related to React, and for one main reason. What you don't want to do when you create a web application is to copy-paste your code everywhere. So it's a common mistake that a lot of juniors do, and they do it for a long time sometimes. They copy-paste all the time the same code until the moment they understand that there is a logic that you can use, which is a hook. Basically, when you start web development, you understand the logic of pages, then the reusable components, and you understand that you can locate all your code in one file that you can reuse somewhere else. Well, you can do it with pieces of UI through components, but for functional logic, you can use what we call hooks. Let me give you an example. So here we got the home page, and we've got an internal component. It can be an external component in another file, whatever, it's the same. Okay, so here we are using the same logic. We create a variable name on line 5 and 13 where we set a name. And let's just imagine that we would have this variable, this piece of code, this line of code in hundreds of components. Okay, so I would always write const name set name is equal to user state. Well, every time I would do that, I would use some piece of memory, okay? I would say, yes, I got a name in this component, so I need to declare this name. And the more you do that, the longer your code will be, and the less readability it will be in the future, okay? And let's say that one day, okay, we would have another variable called special name here. For some reason, we would call it special name, but actually it's exactly the same as name, okay? We just change the name of this variable, but actually it would do exactly the same. So it would be very dumb to create this special name variable. In order to fix this problem, we need to use hooks. So what are hooks? Hooks is just exactly like the component, but external file that encapsulate the business logic of your application. We can create hooks to store variables, functions, whatever you want that is related to the functional logic, not the UI logic. All right, so let's just look at an example. Here, I'm going to create a new folder inside my source here called hooks. And inside hooks, I'm going to create a hook, and the convention is to prefix by use and put a capital letter after, put capital letters, depending on what you want to do, but you're not obliged to do this. I'm just giving you a tip here. I'm going to call it usehook.ts. Okay, I'm calling it usehook because it's an example. You can call it use helpers, use names, whatever. Okay, it's related to your business logic. Okay, so here I created a file in the hooks folder, and what I want to do is to export by default a function, and I'm going to call it usehook, exactly the same as the name of the file. And here I would have a whole logic that I would export to my components or pages. Okay, so basically you understand that I want to export is those two lines here, but actually it's one line now. So of course I need to import user state from React, and I can import here in that context, I can import user state, and there we go. Now what I need to do is to return here the name, and I can also return set name. So when I will call usehook, I will have name and set name available. So let's do it. Let's just here call usehook, and I need to import usehook from where? From actually hooks/usehook. There we go. And what I need to do is to just import name and set name, and suddenly I can remove that line, and suddenly my variable moved from here to here. Now it's time to give more explanation about the scope. So here I got a hook, and here I would not say I got a specific scope, but I would have, let's call it scope 1. But when I import my hook in here, actually, I'm not importing scope 1, okay? I am not sharing data here from usehook to here. Actually, I do, because here I got a default variable. But if I remove here my name here, my John, and I just update, suddenly I don't get anything to show because there is no variable. So here I'm on the scope 2. I'm on the scope of another component. So scope 2, it's the scope of another component. Okay, it's really important to understand scope of another component. And when I import my hook, I'm creating this scope. I'm not importing this scope. Okay, scope of use hook. It has to be really clear in your mind that use hook, okay, hooks are not stores. It's just component logic. It's just functional logic that you import in your component logic. Okay? So here I can remove that. And when I initiate here name, I initiate name actually with the variable that is here. Okay? Variable in use hook. And if I save here, I have my my value. Okay, let's put it empty for now. So now what I can do is to do exactly the same under here on my home component. And now if I save, I don't get Guillaume, unfortunately, I get John. And I would like to have Guillaume in home and I would like to have John in another component. So how would I do this? If I want to initiate actually my name here, I need to use useEffect. And with useEffect, I can just set the name Guillaume. So we just saw that we can externalize inside my hook some logic, but we can go way deeper, okay? Because hooks facilitate easier testing and comparison of your component logic, but it's isolating actually your business logic inside one file that you externalize after. So it's really good because later in the future, probably in a lot of components, you would have the same business logic, and you don't want to have this business logic everywhere. Probably you want to share it across the files. For that, you need to create a hook. But that's not only what you can do. Of course, you could have function that you would externalize that would do some job for you. So for instance, let's say that we would have a calculate VAT function that would receive a price here. And then what we can have here, calculate VAT, we could just calculate here the VAT like this. So I would have this function located in my useHook.ts and I could externalize it everywhere. Let's say we would have it on the pricing page, on the invoice page, on the product page, etc., etc. So what I can do here is to come here and let's say that under the John one, we would have a calculate VAT. And here I would have calculate VAT and I would pass a price, let's say, 1, 2, 3. So here I'm just going to put a name. And then there we go. We would have this, let's say, we would have the VAT on $123. We would have a VAT of 24.6. And you can see here that I don't need to just have at two places. Let's say that we would have at two places here the function. Instead of having at two places the function, we would have it inside the hook directly. Okay, it would be way faster. So the idea is that if you want to use actually hooks, you got to know that you are going to externalize your business logic. Sometimes you don't want to use hooks to externalize your business logic. Let me give you an example. Okay, just going to come back here, removing this one, just going to come back to name. Okay, so we've got here another component which is here, and let's say that this component would be a calendar. Okay, so I would call calendar just down here just to render it. And here I would have this is my calendar. All right. So here in my calendar, here in blue, I would have days. Okay. So I would have, for instance, days, and I would have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Friday here, Saturday, and thanks to the tab 9 here, tab 9, which is basically the extension that I'm using, it's generating for me directly here. So I can remove Sunday. And there we go. So here I would have my days that are here inside my calendar. So what I would do is to loop through the days. So let's say that I would map here day, there we go. And I would just display the day like this. So here I would wrap my day inside a span. It would be better. Here, there we go. And then I would have my day. and I would need to pass as a key here, as a key on the fragment here. So I can call fragment here from React. There we go. And I would put my fragment at the end, and I would have my key, which would be the day, whatever. Okay, just going to go there. Okay, there we go. So we can see that we've got all my days in here, and we've got this array of days. Here, if you follow the logic that I just told you, you would go to here to hooks and create a useCalendar.ts, and you would externalize all the logic of the calendar in one hook. But it would be useless. Why? Because probably here, your calendar, here, this calendar component, would be the only component that will use the days inside your application. Everything that would be related to the calendar would always be only on this calendar component. In that case, it's useless to create a hook. You just keep here all the function, all the variable inside your calendar component, because otherwise you are going to create a file, a hook file, that will be called only in one file. And this is useless to do that. You waste your time externalizing your logic. Don't do this. Instead, just remove this hook here and just stay here localized inside your calendar, okay? Just let the days here, if days is only used inside calendar. The same for the functions, the same for everything that is really related to your component. There is no problem to actually locate all your business logic in one component, only if this component is the only one to use this business logic. Let me give you some last best practices with hooks. Always call your hooks at the top level of your React function. Use the hooks always in React function. Never use them inside other function that would be custom and not in the life cycle of React, okay? Avoid all the conditional hooks. It doesn't work. And please do not use hooks in class components, okay? Hooks should be used only within class components or event handlers, okay? Then the last thing that I advise you to do is to use custom hooks that can call other hooks. You maintain the same rules for usage. We just saw that hooks are really useful when we want to externalize the business logic and just spread this business logic across all your application. Hooks are enabling the sharing of the logic between components, but it's also minimizing the copy-pasting sickness, I would call it, and it's improving your maintainability across your whole application. React Hooks offers a vast potential. It really helps you to boost your development experience.